Good afternoon. My name is Denise Montgomery. I'm an author, a writer, a speaker, and an educator. The name of my book is Blind Ambition. Blind Ambition is a story of intrigue, suspense, betrayal, and all the things that go along with it. The main character is Jonathan Loomis, and his story takes place in Houston right before Hurricane Harvey comes through. Jonathan has found himself in a situation between his mom, his sister, his Aunt Margie, who he had to come and live with due to a few circumstances. So we are at the point right now where Hurricane Harvey is about to hit. Tuesday, August 22nd. Hurricane Harvey entered the Gulf of Mexico as a tropical wave. Residents of Houston and surrounding cities were advised of the hurricane forming in the Gulf. Roads and highways out of town were crowded as residents began leaving the city. Stores had begun placing plywood over their windows. The newsreels were wasted on Jonathan, who was having far too much fun to pay attention to what was happening around him. He was consumed with the sights, sounds, and adventures of the big city. Houston was his big apple, and he wanted to enjoy every bite. In a few days, he was leaving the States with no intention of returning. Jonathan called Tammy on Tuesday morning. He turned on the charm and convinced her there was no need to wait until Thursday. Not much convincing was needed. Tammy was all too happy to accompany him as long as Jonathan was spending his money. When she mentioned the impending storm to Jonathan, he stated that the news media always exaggerated the storm. It wasn't nothing to worry about. Tammy accompanied Jonathan to Houston's finest restaurants. After hours of dining and shopping, Jonathan didn't have a problem getting Tammy to return to his hotel room with him. Tammy didn't show even a hint of hesitation. Wednesday, August 23rd. Hurricane Harvey was expected to hit landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. Dark clouds and rain rolled in on Wednesday morning. The rain started and increased in intensity throughout the day. News reports filled the airways, warning Houston residents to move further north. Jonathan was happy. He could not remember the last time he felt this good about his future. He turned over in bed and listened to the water running in the restroom. He smiled when he thought of Tammy returning to bed after they had finished breakfast. She was a beautiful woman. It was too bad he would never see her again. Tammy was coming out of the restroom. By the time he got out of bed, he had put on his new silk bathrobe. She was fully dressed. She smiled in his direction and walked over to her shopping bags. He embraced her as she reached for the bags, whispering softly, "What's the hurry? You can play hooky for one day, can't you?" Tammy smiled, slipping from Jonathan's embrace. I'm sorry. I have to go in. I got a text from Mr. Wilson. He wants me to come in and close down the office. We have to prepare for the hurricane. We didn't know how long we would be out of the office. They are expecting extreme flooding in the downtown area. She tried to kiss him, but he stepped away. The light went out in Jonathan's eyes. He walked over to the window, trying to contain his growing anger. He spoke in a slow, even tone. "So what does this mean? I have a meeting on Friday. I am expecting the remainder of the deposit. You will process my deposit first, correct? I have no intention of waiting for this hurricane to make up its mind." Tammy moved closer to the door, sensing his change in demeanor. "I know how important this is to you, Jonathan. I will do my best. The commission has several contracts they are closing this week. She turned to the doorknob. I had a great time. Thanks for everything. She opened the door and hurried into the hallway. Jonathan was livid. He leaped over the bed, rushed into the hallway, and screamed, Tammy! Tammy! I need you to keep me informed of your progress. Do you understand? I want to hear from you within the hour. Tammy disappeared into the elevator. Jonathan turned and slammed the door in anger. He spent the remainder of the day watching TV, hoping for any sign that the storm had changed its course. He checked his phone every 10 minutes. Tammy did not call or text. He attempted to leave another message, but her voicemail was packed with the 30 messages he had sent throughout the day. Rain pounded the window panes as it poured from the sky. Doors slammed up and down the hallway. The hotel was a ghost town. Guests were advised to leave the city before the eye of the storm came ashore on Friday. Jonathan sprang to his feet as the phone in the room rang. Maybe she has been meaning to call and she couldn't get through. Hello, Mr. Loomis? This is the front desk. We are advising our guests to check out before the storm. Will you need assistance with your bags? We are closing the hotel and would like to send the employees home to their families. Jonathan rubbed his head as the headache he tried to ignore came to life. He hadn't heard a word the front clerk said. Mr. Loomis, are you there? We need to know what your plans are, please. He walked in circles around the room as the man continued to talk. His frustration was building. I paid you for 5 days. I will be out of here in the morning. Do not call me again. The clerk continued to plead. Sir, we strongly suggest you leave today. I understand it's late evening, but the roads are flooding fast and the phone went dead. Jonathan walked over to the window and opened the curtains. Rain was coming down in sheets. He thought about the older man sleeping behind the convenience store. Oh well, there's nothing I can do about it now. He's resourceful. I'm sure he'll figure a way to get to higher ground. He walked over to the refrigerator and took out the last beer. He looked around the room at boxes of items he had purchased. I don't have a clue how I'm going to get this stuff into the car. I'll worry about it in the morning. I'm going to bed. I will be at the office of Great South Texas Land Commission at 9 a.m. and they will give me the remainder of my deposit. Then I am out of here. Thursday, August 24th. Hurricane Harvey would make landfall between Brownsville and Houston. At 5:30, Jonathan was awakened by the crack of thunder. It had rained all night and was still coming down. Jonathan walked over to the window and pushed the curtains open. In the distance, downtown Houston was a lake. He dressed and gathered his things. The hotel halls were quiet. He took the elevator to the ground floor. Only one person was working the front desk. The man looked relieved to see Jonathan coming. Good morning, sir. You are already checked out. Be careful. The clerk disappeared in the back room before Jonathan could speak. Jonathan walked outside as the rain came down. He left his bags and walked the steep hill to the parking lot, where rain, water, down the hill in streams. He parked the car in front of the hotel and stuffed the numerous bags in the car. The remaining staff passed Jonathan in their haste to exit. He drove slowly out of the parking lot. The commission was in the heart of downtown. The streets in southern Houston were closed. The entrance to the freeway was near the hotel. He continued driving, trying to find his way downtown without going further south. The streets were packed with people trying to find shelter. Jonathan ignored their cries for attention as he inched farther forward to his destination. He continued driving until side streets went he continued driving, using side streets when possible. Nothing looked familiar, but at least the street was clear. The road ahead appeared to lead to the freeway. He continued to drive. The entrance was just up ahead. To the right was an overpass. The water quickly filled in under the bridge. Help! Help! Out of nowhere, a man ran out in front of his car. Jonathan tried to go around the man, but he was persistent. He rubbed his head in frustration. I don't have time for this. When I get to town, I'll tell a cop or someone that people are stranded under a flooded overpass. What were those fools thinking? Didn't they see the water? Did they think the car would float? The man continued to scream and pound on the hood of Jonathan's car. Please, sir, we need help. There is a woman trapped here in a car. There is one man down there already, but we still need your help. Please, we can't just leave her here. Her car will be washed away for sure. Jonathan looked at the man as he continued to beg and plead. He turned his head away from the man as the ghost of his past took turns playing tapes in his head. Jonathan Loomis, you will never amount to anything. Jonathan, are you in trouble again? Jonathan, you ain't nothing but trash. You ain't nothing, and your mama and your daddy ain't nothing either. At that moment, he saw his mother smiling. Jonathan, you are a good son. He knew what had to be done. He wiped the tears that drenched his face with his sleeve. He took the backpack containing the crucial documents from the back seat. He placed the balance of the $5,000 in the backpack. He took his copy of the documents from the bank and sealed them in a brown envelope, labeling them Mom and Dad. He got out of the car, placed the backpack in the trunk. He rolled up Betty Blue's windows and secured the car keys under the seat. He smiled when he looked at all the packages and goods he had stuffed in every area of the car. He took one last look at his car, rubbed his sleeves over the hood, and then turned and walked toward the man waiting patiently. The two men rushed through the waist-deep water. The man guided Jonathan to the car where the woman was trapped. The third man was standing on the hood of the half-submerged car, trying to pry the door open. The man looked familiar. He was wearing a red baseball cap that was turned backwards. He yelled at the woman to remain calm. Help was coming. Waves of water rushed over Jonathan and the man's head as they struggled to stay to their feet. When Jonathan and the man reached the car, the man pulled at the door and Jonathan jumped on the trunk. Jonathan kicked and pounded at the back windshield. Finally, in one swift kick, the windshield gave way. Jonathan yelled to the woman to crawl over the seat. She was terrified. Frozen in her seat, she could not move. The two men outside the car tried to reassure her that everything was fine. They promised they would catch her. The car was stuck on something in the water, preventing it from moving, but the strength of the water was causing it to shift. The man on the hood yelled, "Hurry! We don't have much time. We need to get her out now." Jonathan heard the voice. He inched forward and saw Dean standing on the car's hood. He remembered how he had slipped out of the hotel without paying him and how he had eaten the only food he had. He prayed that Dean did not recognize him. The car was moving slowly, aided by the rushing water. Jonathan slipped through the back window and grabbed the woman from the seat. She grabbed Jonathan and held on tight. The other men leaped onto the trunk and helped pull her out. Dean and the other man leaped into the water as they pulled her toward land. They called out to Jonathan, "Hey, get down! You have to get out of the car." Jonathan heard their screams. He was exhausted. He slumped over into the back seat of the car. trying to catch his breath. Both men yelled, "You have to get out now! The car is moving!" Jonathan raised himself in the back seat. He heard the shouting, and he attempted to climb out with all his strength.